Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Please help me welcome your event hosts, SBAM President and CEO Brian Calley and Michigan Supreme Court Justice Richard Bernstein.
All right, hello everybody. Thank you for being here. It's actually one of my favorite days of the year, and this is a tradition, I guess you would say now. 7 years since the founding of the Hidden Talent Workshop. It started out with an initiative within the state government in Michigan. It was right after I was reelected and Justice Bernstein was newly elected, and I invited him over to the office and we talked about the idea of the state of Michigan, the government of the state of Michigan as an employer, doing more to intentionally hire people with disabilities. It's just part of its normal HR practices. And Richard said, that sounds like a great idea. Why would we stop with the government of the state of Michigan? Why don't we really bring this wider? That's where the idea, the concept was founded. So we're really thrilled to do this and to keep this going. And also to continue the partnership after I left office and now the CEO of the Small Business Association of Michigan. And Richard signed up for another 8 years on the Supreme Court. Congratulations on that. And just really thrilled with the progression of this, where it has gone. Our goal is, we think about like, where do we want to be in the future? It has to do with moving from the idea of an initiative or something special or something that is a nice thing to do or out of a charitable heart to just the regular way of doing business. The idea that there's talent out there that are determined and creative and know how to persevere and have to just to do a lot of the things that many of us take for granted. And those are great qualities for people on your team, is to be determined, to be creative, to know how to persevere through challenges. And as we see more and more success in this area, the sustainability really starts to take hold. And that's why I'm so thrilled with the program that we have today, which I hope will inspire but also inform and how to move forward. I also wanted to take a minute to recognize sponsors. This is free to SBAM members because of the generosity of our sponsors. So the top level sponsors, the gold sponsors, actually we've got one that's been with us since the beginning, Meyer, and that'll be a feature today, literally since the beginning, 7 years ago. One of the first at the table has been Meyer, and they're a gold level sponsor, along with a new one, AdvisaCare and Rebound. Awesome members of the Small Business Association of Michigan, have been great partners in our mission over the years. Silver sponsors, Enbridge and Consumers Energy, both repeat supporters of the mission here. And bronze, Dean Transportation, Kelly Dean, such a long-term great member of our association, and walks the walk when it comes to this work. AT&T Michigan and Blue Cross Blue Shield Specialty Benefits, both long-term supporters of the SBAM mission and the work that we're talking about today. Also wanted to acknowledge our accessibility sponsor, the Michigan Rehabilitation Services. MRS is one of the partners that continues the work beyond today. So we hope that you'll get connected with either Michigan Rehabilitation Services or one of their network of providers in order to take what you learned today and put it into real action. And then we also have event sponsors at Project Search, Dutton Farm, Autism Alliance of Michigan, and Peckham. We could not do this without you. A hand for our supporters and sponsors. I want you to imagine if you are meeting a person for the first time. What's the first thing that you talk about? Well, most of the time it's what you do. It's your career. It's what you do for a living. It's just the thing that is ingrained so much in our culture. Imagine now if you're facing that first conversation without an answer for that, and how isolating and how marginalizing that could be. And that's the type of future that so many people face. And we're really excited about the progress that has been made. You're going to hear about some of that today since this work started. But from our feature speaker, our keynote speaker, you'll hear that it's been going on for a lot longer than maybe you thought. Before we get to that, I want to introduce the co-founder of this event and my co-host today, Justice Richard Bernstein.
I have to say, this is really my favorite day of the year, because here in Lansing, there's always so much going on within the Beltway. There's always the intensity of politics, there's the intensity of government. But every now and then, you have the opportunity to gather for something that is truly good. You have the chance to gather for something that brings joy. You have the chance to gather for something that truly makes a difference, has an impact on so many different people. I think we all ask ourselves questions, especially those of us in government. Why do we do it? There's so much intensity, there's so much that goes on, there's so much exhaustion, there's so much ups and downs. We look for certain things that allow for us to realize, why is it worthwhile? And when you have the opportunity to gather at an event like this and have the chance to spend time with the people that we get to spend time with, when you have a chance to meet some of the consumers that are impacted and affected, when you spend time with people with disabilities, regardless of the disability, you see something tremendous. You have a chance to peek into their spirit. You have a chance to peek into their soul. And what you find is there's this incredible resilience. There's this incredible energy. There's this incredible vitality to do good, to have a place, to know what your purpose is. And the most incredible thing about it is that I believe that we're all created for a certain purpose and for a certain reason. And it's up to us to try to understand and appreciate just what that reason is, just what that purpose is. And I think ultimately, the more experiences that we have, the more struggles that we face, but most importantly, the more time that we spend with people who do know struggle, with people who do know hardship, with people who do know setback, the more we see our potential, the more we see what is possible, the more we see how we can inspire, how we can excite, the more we realize that the mission of this program, the mission of this event, is to allow for others to participate, to allow for others to see what that potential is. Brian and I often talk about the fact that so often in the disability movement, people with disabilities are very aware of what we can accomplish. We are very aware of what we can achieve. The biggest challenge that we tend to face is convincing others of our potential, is convincing others of our achievement, is convincing others of what we can contribute. And I'll say in the last few moments that I have with you, I was just at another event this morning in Grand Rapids, and they asked an interesting question. They asked, why is this so important? Why does this matter? Why is this so significant? And I remember saying, so often, you can look back to certain cornerstones. You can look back to high school as a guiding light. And so often, when you look at why the ADA was created, it actually says to tear down the wall of isolation. Why does that matter? There's something about being included. There's something about being a part of a team. There's something about having a place to go. There's something about having self-respect. This program, this initiative, gives people the most important gift that you can give them. It gives them the gift of dignity. And I say in conclusion, what Brian and I always talk about is, this is not a charity. This is not about feeling good. This is about good business. This is about getting the best employees you can possibly get. This is about getting the people who have the greatest amount of loyalty, the greatest endurance, people who will show up at work no matter what, people who will stop at nothing to do a good job, people who want to please because they realize if given this opportunity, they want to make it happen because they realize the significance, the import, and the nature of what has been given to them. This is not a charity. This is simply good business. This is simply doing good things. This is simply about getting the absolute best people you can find. And I always conclude with a biblical reference. And I always include with my favorite story about how the angel came upon Jacob deep into the night. And there existed an immense battle and struggle. And when the sun rose, the angel blessed Jacob and gave him a new name, the name of Israel, which, as we all know, translates to mean one who struggles with God. But Scripture also tells us that Jacob was not left uninjured. He would walk with a limp and no great pain for the remainder of his days. This isn't just about good business. It's about doing something spiritual, just, and right. For it was only through Jacob's struggles and hardships that he was able to connect with those in which he led. It was only through that connection that he could become the father of a nation. And if we look to the Bible, we will see that all of our great leaders, those who had the biggest responsibilities, had the biggest challenges. There has to be a reason. There has to be a struggle. But it's through that understanding, through that awareness, that we come to know who we are, that we come to know what we're sent to do, that we come to be a part of the Michigan Hidden Talent Tour.
All right, I am thrilled to have the privilege of introducing our keynote address today, and it is Rick Keys from Meijer. Rick is a 33-year veteran of Meijer. He was appointed president in 2015, the first non-family member CEO in 2017. He began his career in operations, holding several executive positions prior to being promoted EVP of supply chain and manufacturing. It was in this role that he led Meijer's disability hiring initiative, which has changed the lives of countless people with disabilities, many of whom I know. And I want to personally vouch for I assume you'll hear some stories today. If you know somebody who works at Meijer, you know that they walk this walk, they live it every day and really change people's lives. As Meijer President CEO, Rick oversees the day-to-day operations at Meijer while closely working with Hank Meijer on developing strategies for growth. And I also want to throw in that Meijer is a long-term supporter of the Small Business Association of Michigan. The determination of the company to locally source much more than companies like them. Yes, they're big, they're not small, they're big, but they started small, actually started in Greenville and Ionia, in my own backyard, and turned into a large company that never forgot its local roots. And so whether it's the small store concept that allows more small suppliers to get in on the business itself, or the determination to locally source, giving businesses right here in Michigan an opportunity to be on the shelves of a major retailer when most corporations of their size and stature don't even think twice about. It makes them special and different. That's why I'm so proud to be associated with and to invite Rick Keys to be our keynote today. Rick.
This is wonderful.
Well, good morning.
Okay, yes, great.
Just fine here. We're getting started. Can you hear me now? Okay. So, good morning, and it really is exciting for me to be here to speak with you. When the invitation came from Brian to talk to this group, I really leapt at the opportunity. I've had the opportunity to speak with Brian throughout the years, and the mission and the work that him and Richard have been doing, that journey that they're on. I have so much respect for that. And you know, as Richard was speaking, it really drew me back to, which I think was your presenter last year, Randy Lewis. And Randy, the title of Randy's book is No Greatness Without Goodness. And I think that is just an exceptional way of capturing how you think about business. I mean, there's different ways. We all go into business for a variety of reasons. Certainly, many of you here, you know, maybe you've been new to business, you've started a business, you've been in business for a long time. I know we have a variety of different sizes of business. And we believe at Meijer, and I think you'll see this through the presentation, that there really is no greatness without goodness. And it's deeply seated in our culture and our history. And so, you know, what I'd like to do today, and Brian asked me to share our journey with you, is to take you back a little bit. One, tell you a little bit about Meijer, talk to you a little bit about our history and how did our culture form and why do we do what we do, and then talk a bit about some of the things that we're doing today that we think really make a difference. So I got to get that off the screen. I noticed it said Myers. That can create a little controversy sometimes. So that apostrophe S is a little scary whenever I see that up there. But you know, first I just want to start by, I don't want to assume everybody understands what Meijer is today and where we have come. And so, you know, certainly we were founded in Greenville, Michigan, and we are a Michigan-based, family-run, family-operated business here that's privately held, and we take a great deal of pride in that. You'll see the different formats up on the screen, and so many of you, hopefully, how many Meijer shoppers do we have? And make sure I'm surrounded. I'm in the bubble here, which is wonderful. So many of you are familiar with us with our super centers, the large one-stop shopping. You can get everything under one roof. Recently, as times have changed, we've realized that there's a lot of other people that want to access. They want more convenience to be able to connect with Meijer. So we've created multiple formats. We just launched one a few weeks ago in Southeast Michigan, a couple stores that's just Meijer Grocery. We have, as was mentioned earlier, we have a smaller format in urban locations that we have. We call those market formats, and they're highly local. 40% of our items are local items sourced through local businesses that really kind of bring to life this relationship that we have as a community. And then we also have our express stores. But we have now over 264 locations. So Meijer has grown. We're in 6 states. When you think about it, sometimes when you think about a retailer like Meijer, you see what's on the shelf, but there's so much that goes into getting those products to the shelf, whether that's through our supply chain and distribution capabilities, whether it's manufacturing. Many people don't know that we have multiple manufacturing plants. We produce all of our own dairy. It's really an incredible operation, and you can see here pictures of our team, and that's really how we bring it all to life. You know, at Meijer, we have over 73,000 team members, which is hard to believe when you think about when we started. I often, when I'm giving these presentations, I think about what Fred would think about where our company is today and his father, Hendrik, and to see the amount of people, the diversity of effort that it takes to bring to life
this experience that we have in our stores each and every day. And so I wanted to just share with you a little bit of our history. So if we go to the next slide. Our company was founded in 1934, and Hendrik Meyer, who's seated on the penny pony, we like to say there are no sacred cows at Meyer, there's only a sacred pony. And so the penny pony, I know I have free reign to make whatever decisions I need to make, but I can never change the price of the penny pony. It has to be a penny, and it's always going to be up front for our kids. But Hendrik was the founder of our company in 1934. He was a Dutch immigrant from the Netherlands. And really, I think that shaped and formed his belief around fairness. There was a reason why he came to the United States. He wanted a chance to make a difference. He wanted that opportunity to have that dignity of work and responsibility and to create his own company and create his own life. And his son Fred, who's down at the bottom, you'll see in the bottom picture, the right-hand picture, Fred really grew the company. We started in Greenville, Michigan, and it really is a family business. It was talked about earlier that, we really try to keep it, while we have grown larger, we try to keep this small business mentality, that entrepreneurial spirit, to think about it doesn't matter just because you have maybe a different comma or an extra comma in your sales doesn't mean that your culture changes or how you think about what's right and what's wrong changes. That our culture really is really our guiding light. And so at Meyer, we talk about our purpose being to enrich lives in the communities that we serve. And I'm not sure that when Hendrik and Fred first started the company, that's what they were thinking, why we got into business. Our company started in the middle of the Depression. They were trying to start a business and to provide for their family. But over time, those family values take over. The business starts reaching that point of sustainability, and you realize that we're a big part of each and every community that we're in. And we hope that if tomorrow Meyer were to leave your community, that you would say, wow, we're really missing something. And Hank Meyer will always say, if we're just another big box strip retailer that's out there on the strip selling products, I would prefer not to have my name on the building. That's not why we're in this business. We're in the business now because we really believe that we can make a difference, not just for our communities, but for the team that works with us each and every day. Having a great place to work is a substantial way that we can make a difference in our communities. And Fred would talk all the time about, he always had a great way of simplifying everything that he did. And he used to always just say, look, I just want to leave things in a little better place than, when I came into the world. And I think he lived that purpose each and every day. I got to see it firsthand, having been with Meyer for over 30 years. This slide, we have a heritage center, and it allows us to really hang on to our history and heritage, and we keep all of these records and all of the things that we've been involved in. And when I got the call to give this presentation, we did a little bit of research, because this is really the topic I'm going to talk about has been part of our culture and history as long as I can remember. And this happens to be out of our team newsletter that would go out. We called it the Cracker Barrel. Don't ask me why. But from 1991. And it talks about valuing the diversity of those with disabilities. And for those that you remember, 1990 was when the American Disabilities Act was launched. And to read this and just to see the thinking around how do we think about this work of working with persons with disabilities and to providing those opportunities. This is the quote that was actually on the front page of that article. And it said, we at Meyer prided ourselves on not waiting around for laws to force us to do what is right. And I know for me, I get the question oftentimes, wow, boy, that has to be incredibly complicated and challenging, running a company of Meyer's size with 70,000 people, et cetera. And what I would say is, it is complicated. There are a lot of moving parts. But in many ways, it's very simple when you work for a family business that has these family values. And we all know what is right and what is wrong. You can intuitively sense that. And so oftentimes decisions aren't as difficult as they seem. There may be consequences to it, but if you know it's the right decision and the right thing to do, you just do it at Meyer. And we believe in that strongly. This is a little bit of a snapshot of our history, and you'll see up at the top there in 1964, so almost 60 years ago, Fred was appointed to Governor Romney's committee for employing people with disabilities. So a 60-year history of advocating and working in this arena is part of what ebbs and flows. It's kind of a thread throughout our company. And so I can't take credit. I'm up here speaking about this, but this is just part of what we do at Meijer, and it just feels very natural. And they're very, at Meijer, we really take seriously the responsibility we have. I think oftentimes in these settings or in these discussions, we talk about business, and what we want to talk about is hiring initiatives. What are you doing to hire persons with disabilities and give them opportunities? And I'm going to talk about that. But I think there are so many other ways. We're very, very blessed at Meijer to have the opportunity to impact in so many ways. You think about our stores. We have about 11 million customers that shop or come through our doors each and every week. 11 million people that are coming through. The accessibility of our footprint, of our stores, the way we design our stores, the technology that we put into our stores to make our stores accessible is an incredible way that we can impact people and give them dignity in their lives and give them the opportunity to shop like we all want to, and to provide for themselves on a daily basis. So there's so many things here. One that I really like at the bottom, that's Gesine Meijer. So that would be Fred's mom. And one of the things that I think is important to understand is that eventually all of us in some way, shape, or form will pick up some form of a disability, largely. And so Gesine, as she got older, couldn't walk, and so she was confined to a wheelchair. And at that time, back in those days, back in the 70s, for those of you, I won't make you raise your hand if you shopped with us back in the 70s, but we had mezzanine, so we used to have a hair salon, and we would have McDonald's, and we would have all these stores in the mezzanine, and it really dawned on Gesine and Hendrik, well, this is really inconvenient. How do I get up there to go shop in those locations? That very next year, they changed the footprint, and that's when, from that day forward, our stores were always single floor. One floor, everything accessible in our stores. And it's just a small example, but it's a way of always thinking about, boy, hey, we really can make a difference here. You know, at Meijer, we have a way of thinking about the decisions that we make, and I thought it'd be important for me to at least share this. When I came into the role, as mentioned, 2015, I really wanted to capture our culture. And having been with the company for a long time, I thought it was very important for people to understand, how did we get here? What allowed Meijer to be successful? And, you know, we were growing big at the time. We were getting much bigger. We were starting to compete directly with Walmart at the time. They were coming into town. Target was taking off. You had Kohl's. And we had started to drift a bit and started to focus and try to do what other people were doing to be successful. Well, what's Target doing? We should go do this. What is Walmart doing? If we did that, we would that would ensure our success. And I think it started to veer us a little bit off path. And, you know, when I came in, having been with the company for such a long time, I felt like there was a reason why we are here today. There's a reason why we've been successful. And it really was framed in these. We tried to keep it simple because we really wanted it to be replicated across the company. We wanted every single team member to understand what's up in that upper left-hand corner. And so you'll actually see these in our stores. You'll see this logo in our stores on our team members, and it's called CTC is really what how we talk about it, but it's really about the customer, our team, and competing. And so first and foremost, we have this absolute passion for our customer, relentless focus on our customer. In the middle, you'll see the T, and that is to really represent that the only way we're going to win is with our team. That is the singular way that we're going to win. We're going to invest in our team. And then we're going to have this passion to compete. We have a lot of small businesses here. Competition, it's a day-to-day, hand-to-hand combat. You're doing everything you can to take care of your team and your customer. And that's a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun doing that. And we have a lot of great people that help us to accomplish that. And you can see in the photo there, we were just talking about this earlier before the meeting started. Tamikia, who's in the yellow vest, is a team member that was actually employed and we went on when I was working in supply chain. And Tamikia is really a great example of winning with our teams. Tamikia is considered legally blind. She really struggles from a visual impairment. And we had started an intentional initiative within our supply chain to say, hey, we really want to make jobs available. Now, when you're hiring someone in a distribution center that's highly automated, high-lows running back and forth, cases going everywhere. It can be a little bit intimidating around saying, well, if someone can't see, can they actually work in a distribution center that's processing about 1 million cases a week? And we sat down with Tamikia and worked through some different accommodations at her station where she was doing some picking. And it really was incredible to see what her capabilities were. I mean, she quickly, with the accommodations we made with the screen, quickly became one of our top pickers that we had in the selection profile. She helped us to think about how we were presenting information. And I was reminded earlier, Callie from Peckham was reminding me that the accommodations that we made for Tamikia actually made it easier. When she was off, the other team members would come over to her station and want to use her station because it was easier to read and for them to do their jobs. Just a small example, but our team is really what helps to drive our focus and our ability to win. I wanted to talk a little bit, we'll start with the C in the customer and community. The shopping experience, as I mentioned earlier, is a big part of what we do each and every day. And trying to create that environment where customers have all the tools that they need to be successful if they're going out in their day and picking up a few items to bring home. Interesting story that I thought I would share, again, goes back to our history. How many of you, we all see the Amigo carts that are in the stores, right? They're everywhere, and they're now everywhere in retail. Did you know that Meijer was the first retailer to adopt using Amigo carts? And in our very own state of Michigan, Flint, Michigan, Al Team was confounded by the problem of his wife had a disability and really struggled to get around the store. And so he created, he got the idea, the reason why it's called Amigo, he was down in Mexico, and that's where he got the idea, to create a mobile cart with a basket on it that his wife could use in the store to shop with. So when he got back from his vacation, he started to work and put it together, built a prototype, and his daughter, gave it to his daughter and said, why don't you go to that Meijer store, it was down in Flint, store 29 for us, and don't come back with it. Sell that Amigo cart, and let's see if Meijer will start using it. We adopted it immediately. We were one of the first retailers to adopt Amigo carts across the country, which is kind of a neat little story. But I think this willingness and openness to adopt new technology and to find ways to make it easier for our customers. And there's so many other examples that we can do as a business to really make it easier for our customers. The top one, Aria, is it's an app that our customers who are visually impaired can use to actually shop with. And you're able to use that free of charge at Meijer, so you can log in. If you think about that, I can navigate the aisle, but if I want to find a specific item on an aisle with 100 items on the shelf, I need some help. And so we adopted that technology, and all of our customers that are visually impaired can use that. Same with Script Talk. Oftentimes it's very difficult reading labels, et cetera, and so we have an app that we put in place and a capability for our customers, all of our pharmacy customers, to use this app to actually audibly read the label for our customers so that they can actually understand what's on those labels and the medication that they're taking. You'll see Caroline's cart, you'll see adult changing tables. There should be, if you go through our stores with awareness around this, you'll start to see all of these different investments that we're making. We think that's equally as important as our hiring initiatives, is to make our stores accessible for our customers. Certainly, from a team perspective, having an inclusive environment for our team is just kind of foundational for Meijer. It's one of the things that really has attracted me, why I've stayed with Meijer for 34 years. I've always felt like I was valued, that the work that I did was respected, that I had the dignity of work, the dignity of contribution. Justice Bernstein's talked about that there's such power in that. And we have done a lot of things with our teams. What you'll see here, you probably have seen these t-shirts that are in our stores, it's Stronger Together. We really promote that with our teams. All of the advocacy groups, all the work that we do as a team to support each other is something that's very important to us. These stats, I think back, the first time I was exposed to these stats was when I was in supply chain and manufacturing. At the time, I had a team of about 5,000 people that I was responsible for, and I was really stunned by what I saw here. So if you think about unemployment, the U.S. unemployment rate at 3.5%, and then you think about the unemployment for disabled persons age 18 to 64 being at 68.6%. I mean, that is just unacceptable. And growing up in this culture at Meyer of the value of each and every individual, everybody can make a difference, we started to think and look at this challenge a little bit differently. And what I would say is, you know, a lot of companies will say, yes, we're open to hiring persons with disabilities. You can't not say that. The question is, are you intentionally focused and actively working to give those opportunities to persons with disabilities, and to be open to what their capabilities are, not what their disability is. And I think that was really the breakthrough for us at Meyer and for me in the role that I had in supply chain. And there's all kinds of stories that I can tell about the work that we did from a supply chain standpoint. You know, what I would say is we opened our doors. We said, we don't know, but we're going to invest the time. We're going to learn. What does it take? What do we need to do? There was a lot of fear and trepidation around that. Are we going to make a mistake? Now, grant you, the company had been and always had been hiring persons with disabilities. We would really change the focus and said, no, we're going to go big. We're going to really invest here. We're going to really give these opportunities. And there was lots of learnings. I think when we first started, one of the things that we did was we tried to pigeonhole people. So we tried to say, well, if you have this disability, we'll have this job for you. And if you have this disability, we'll have this job for you, and you can do this work. And what we found out rather quickly is that's really not going to work. And actually, we really needed to change and give that and put that in the hands of the team member. Give them an opportunity to come in and to see all the jobs that we do, and you tell us which job fits you the best, and how can we accommodate and work with you to accomplish those jobs. And there's all kinds of barriers that we faced as we were dealing with those particular challenges and learnings, but it was really, really rewarding. One story I like to tell when I give a chance to give a speech like this is one from when I was on the supply chain side. We had our head of produce, director of produce, one of our biggest departments in our company. His son was autistic and had struggled to get employment. Really, you know, it was at some point his father had given up, said, I just really don't believe that my son is ever going to work. And we had started this initiative. We knew of the challenges that his son was facing. We said, let him come work for us. Let Mike come work for us and work through this program with us. And he actually told us no. So now here it's I've worked for this company for 30 years. I believe in what Meyer is doing, but I don't believe that my son can be successful. So it took us about 2 or 3 tries to get Mike on board with us. And Mike came on board in our distribution center in Lansing. And it was really interesting. He's just a very creative young man. He was really energized. He had a coach. He picked up rather quickly the job in Lansing. We have a 90-day probationary period. And what I think is sometimes missed around this work is the impact that not just on that individual, but the impact on the family and the impact on the employees that are working with these individuals that are really looking for an opportunity to have the dignity of work. And so we have this 90-day probationary period. And one of the things that I would say is the way we view this work is that it isn't charity. It's equal work for equal pay. So we're very clear up front. We have engineered standards. We're going to work with you. We'll get you whatever accommodations that you need. We'll find you the right job. But we want you to have that dignity around the fact that this is equal work for equal pay. So we have a 90-day probationary period, which can be a little daunting for some individuals. Boy, if I don't make rate, am I going to be able to keep this job? And so what we saw was happening was the team was kind of really rallying around Mike and saying, hey, we want to make sure that Mike makes it. And this has never happened. I've never seen or heard of this at Meyer ever. But when his 90th day came and he clocked in, he had actually made his rate, and he clocked in for the day, his entire team was standing around the time clock giving him a round of applause, which was just, blows your mind around how powerful that was. And one of the things that he did, and there's a video that I have out there that talks about this, he went back, and it was so important. His dad was a Meyer team member. We all wear badges. And he went back and he came in and that day, and his dad tells the story, he walked in with a badge. He's holding his badge up. He says, look, Dad, I'm a Meyer person just like you. I made it. And he's holding up his badge. And so I talk about that quite a bit about what does that mean? What would that mean for his father? What did that mean for him? What did that mean for everyone that surrounded him? I've told this story probably to thousands of people over time. What is that, the impact of some of these decisions and the work that we do and the opportunity that we have to change that number. Unfortunately, we haven't moved it as much as we could or should over the years, but this is certainly a goal for us as we go forward. So as a CEO now, I'm no longer in supply chain. What is my role and responsibility? And I think it's at a much broader level. We started to step back and say, how do we think about this across every business, not just in supply chain, but when we hire across the entire company, whether it's in store operations, in the corporate office, in supply chain. I signed on to the CEOs are in a pledge letter. We actually now are certified. We go through a certification process for Best Place to Work for Disability and Inclusion. I'm really proud to say 5 years in a row that we've been certified through this process at 100%, which is really something that we take a great deal of pride in, and we know that we can make a meaningful difference. The other thing I would just mention briefly is there's a lot of opportunity for transitional work, and I think one of the big challenges that we have here is our youth that are coming out of school and transitioning into work. It's very easy and oftentimes pretty quickly they can get caught up in the system and not believe that they're capable of working. And so one of the outreaches that we're working on right now that I think has a lot of legs and I would recommend to you is to look for these transitional work roles that are out there. This happens to be Kent ISD. We have opened our doors in West Michigan. We have several of our stores that are actually transitioning, working for a year with a coach, transitioning these individuals out of school into full employment at Meijer, and we're seeing tremendous success. And then finally, I thought I would share this story with you. One of the other ways that we can make a difference at Meijer is really investing in organizations that make a difference. And I think there's so many. I think Peckham was mentioned here. I would highly recommend if you're thinking about engaging in this kind of work, Peckham would be a great organization to do that with. This happens to be the Conductive Learning Center. And the picture that's up to the right is a picture that's actually on my wall in my office. And Sarah McCabe, who's pictured to the left, is a graduate of the Conductive Learning Center. Sarah has cerebral palsy. She is confined to a wheelchair, has limited use of her arms and her legs. She started at the Conductive Learning Center when she was 5 years old, learning how to walk, learning how to use a cane, learning how to do the basic functions of life. And they work with individuals all the way through their lives. And Meijer has been a kind of a founding sponsor here. But it was really interesting because I think for this group, it's very, very difficult to find employment. And they were coming through. She went to college, graduated, went on, got her master's degree, started interviewing for jobs, and couldn't find a role. She is an amazing individual, extremely bright, but really could not find a role and could not find a home. She came on board with Meijer. She now works in our HR department, in our analytics division, and is really just an incredible contributor. You might ask, what's the connection here? And I had been giving a keynote speech at their fundraiser, and I did not know about another talent that Sarah had, and that was as an artist. And so the auction that day after I gave my speech, was this piece of art that she produced. And if you saw her, or you met her, you would say, that's impossible. I don't know how that could have been possible for her to produce this, yet she did. And I think oftentimes we underestimate what people are really capable of. We don't really know the true person unless we slow down and get to understand them. Now, fortunately, she's working for us each and every day, and I get a chance to look at that each and every day in my office. And it's a great reminder to me to never really underestimate. I think Justice Bernstein talked about that, to give people an opportunity to show what they're capable of doing, to be there to find and help with those accommodations, and then to let them flourish and to let them prosper. And I think she's a great example of that in a way that we like to think about employment here at Meijer. This was the second quote that was on that article from 1991. And it says, if you believe in people's dignity, if you believe in their right to their dignity and treat them that way, you'll help them to succeed. And there's such great dignity in work, and I think we all have that responsibility to provide that for our teams and for our communities as we run our businesses each and every day. So I hope this was helpful, just sharing a little bit of our journey and how we think about this. What I would say to you is, it really is a blessing. I think, going back to what the quote that I had earlier, there really is no greatness without goodness. And I think what we give, we receive twofold, if not more, as we work to make sure that people have the opportunity to succeed. So with that, I thank you very much. I know maybe a couple questions, and we'll move on from there. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Rick. That was everything I was hoping that it would be and more. I thought you did a wonderful job of laying out the way that the work, and we're talking about hiring today, but with Meijer, the attitude and the accessibility is infused throughout everything that you do, the customer experience all the way through to the employee experience. You also did a nice job laying out the history and doing that West Michigan humility thing where you give credit to those who came before. But when you were EVP of supply chain and in manufacturing, Meijer really did kind of take that to the next level. And taking the work to the next level, I know, required some changes. And I wonder if you could just talk through, sometimes small business owners can benefit the most from understanding what were some of the hardships or the setbacks, the struggles in taking it to the next level, making the changes, and maybe just talk through how you got people on board to new and different things that maybe they weren't comfortable with.
Yeah, I would say there's a little bit of a theme here. So I talked about Randy Lewis earlier in the presentation. He spoke last year. Randy was the head of supply chain for Walgreens. I was the head of supply chain for Meijer. So we interacted, spoke at different conferences. And I had an opportunity to hear his story and the challenges that his son Austin had gaining employment and the work he was doing to really advocate on behalf of hiring persons with disabilities. And I have to say, the first time I heard it, I thought, wow, that was great. I went home, maybe we can do something at Meijer, and didn't do anything. Because, the challenges of life hit, we were busy, I ended up not really acting on it. I got to see him speak a second time and said to myself, okay, I am not going back and letting this go. We're going to figure this out. And I had the opportunity to meet with our CEO, Mark Murray, at the time and say, this is something that I really believe in, and I think that we could make a difference. Will you support me? And 100% support from Mark. It was almost immediate. Whatever you need, how do we get this going? And that was really the launching pad to start thinking about it more intentionally. Again, there's passive and then there's intentional. To really be intentional and say, I'm going to seek out, I'm going to learn, I'm going to grow and understand where the opportunities are. What I would say the biggest challenge was probably from areas I didn't expect. I thought, naively, I'm going to go now to HR. Mark and I have agreed we're going to do this, and tell them this is what we're going to do. And we had set some bold and ambitious goals. And they looked at me like I was crazy. I mean, it was like, you've got to be kidding me. Have you thought about this? And what about this? And all the reasons why it was going to be difficult started to pop up. And I thought they were going to be like, oh my gosh, how do I help you? And so there was a little bit of convincing that had to take place there to help them to understand. And I think what is wonderful about working in this space is there's a lot of organizations that you can partner with. And I know you're going to have workshops and talk about that a little bit, but there are organizations that can help you. For example, I had mentioned Peckham is an organization right here in Lansing. That's if you want to see it, if you need to see it to believe it, you can go there and tour their facility. You can see the work in action, the difference people are making, a business that's being run primarily by persons with disabilities and performing at a high level. And they helped shepherd us through that growth process. And so I would say it was just the unexpected resistance I got within an organization. And you heard me talk about this is an organization that has a culture that believes in this. But you also get caught up in all the reasons why I can get in trouble. Am I going to say the wrong thing? Am I going to do the wrong thing? What if this happens? And so we just had to break those barriers down. And I think it required a lot of leadership to say, okay, I understand that, set that aside, let's go back to what Meyer is all about. We're going to do the right thing, and then we'll figure it out later.
Great insight. And here in the room, we've got nonprofit, some larger entities, a lot of small businesses that are represented, and but these are decision makers generally, hiring decision makers. Maybe expound a little bit on that, on the importance of support from the top.
Yeah.
You know, to maybe expect that there are going to be some obstacles, that this isn't going to be an easy path if you're not already down that journey. But how important was it at Meyer to have that top level support, making this a priority and kind of driving it through the organization?
Yeah, I think it helps to break down those barriers, because when you have permission at the top and you're saying this is something that we want to do, and that you come out and you recognize it's not going to be easy, but we're going to figure it out, I think it really opens the doorway for real growth. I think if I had not had Mark Murray's support at that point in time as president of the company, it probably would have been, you know, siloed, a small cohort of work that we would be doing in Lansing, but it would have never taken the legs that it did today. And now as I think about my role and what we're doing more broadly around inclusive shopping environments, you know, hiring across all of our facilities in these areas, I don't think that would be possible without me saying this is something that we want to do. There's just so many priorities and things that we're all working on that we believe kind of trump this and trump that, and the next thing you know, it's something that you forget about. And to keep that focus in an organization, I think leaders at the top have to say this matters. This is important.
Thanks again for joining us.
Great, thank you.
I serve on the board of the Autism Alliance of Michigan, and it's somebody that I've been on that board with and worked with for a long time. Dave Meter retired recently from DTE Energy, and we are on this mission to have more of the work that is happening with diversity, equity, and inclusion, to really consider disability as a core part of that work. And Meyer lives it every day. Thank you for being such a great leader in that area. It was just an outstanding presentation. I hadn't heard it before. I didn't know what exactly to expect, but delighted with the direction that it went and just how practical it is in understanding but my main takeaway from that talk was that while we're in this conference, we're focusing on how do we make sure that our hiring processes are inclusive and we do intentional work to hire people with disabilities. Think about what that actually means in the context of this one silo within an organization, as opposed to when that's an attitude and a way of doing business across the entire organization. And I think that was a very, very powerful example, or very powerful demonstration of what can happen. Thank you for the work that you've done there. We're going to go to our breakout sessions, but before we do that, I want to recognize again our sponsors and to drive clear that we make this free to our members because we have generous sponsors, and that's a tradition going way back, and that includes Meyer, that's been with us since the very, very beginning. New this year, AdvisaCare and Rebound, what awesome supporters they have turned out to be to the work that we're doing, the mission here at the SBAM Foundation. And by the way, this is a function of the SBAM Foundation. So we've got the Small Business Association of Michigan, but we also have a 501c3 foundation that is really leaning into this work. Enbridge and Consumers Energy as silver sponsors, Dean Transportation, AT&T, and Blue Cross Blue Shield Specialty Benefits as our bronze sponsors. Thank you so much for the help that you provide in spreading the word and creating opportunities for others to get in on what is possible. Coming up now, we're going to start the breakout sessions. We're going to have the same ones this morning as we have later on this afternoon. So you can look at the menu, you can pick, but understand that the exact same ones will be available next in the next session as well, so that you don't worry about missing out. The first is apprenticeships, a strategic hiring advantage. Then also session 2, preparing the work environment for neurodiverse candidates, and number 3, getting started with inclusive hirings. The sessions will begin at 11:15 p.m. or a.m. here, so you got 15 minutes to freshen up the coffee, grab some refreshments, hit the restroom, and Laura, how do they know where to go? Do we got signs or people? All right, so you're going to be walking across the building where the breakout rooms are, but there'll be signs and people along the way to help you. Thank you, everybody.